Now, if you're like me, God help you, an anime geek who also listens to hip-hop, you may or may not have noticed that anime and hip-hop have been having an interesting thing going on for a little while now. Now, hold on a second, I know that anime has kind of been here and there mingling around with different genres and cultures, definitely been getting sweet with vaporwave. I'm not saying that anime and hip-hop are exclusive, I get it. Anime's doing its thing out there, flirting with everybody, side pieces all over the place, but I'm not gonna judge anime for doing what it does, and I'm not trying to talk about all that extra stuff. Right now, I want to talk about its relationship with hip-hop. Why? Because that's what's on my mind, it's what I want to do. In all seriousness, I want to talk about it because it's something that I've noticed for a while now and genuinely find it interesting. So let's talk. It's sort of like when two of your friends start dating who you never pictured being together. And at first, it's a little weird getting used to seeing them together, acting like a couple, showing up to the shindigs together, yada yada. Sometimes things don't work out between these two people, but sometimes this thing that started between them just maintains and you start to see how they vibe well together and just kind of work. This is what I think of when I look at the relationship with anime and hip-hop. It's kind of interesting the relationship that these two cultures have with each other. It got me thinking, how did these two things start getting together in this way? Let me start off by saying that geek culture is definitely nothing new to the world of hip-hop. Rappers from back in the day were making references to the things that they loved and were inspired by. Wu-Tang Clan often referenced old kung fu movies, something that becomes pretty obvious just by listening to their music. Their song Bring the Ruckus samples lines from the movie Shaolin and Wu-Tang, a film that probably helped them in coming up with their name. Their geekdom didn't stop there, however, as their members were also fans of comic books. Wu-Tang members Method Man and Ghostface Killah were both into superheroes. Method Man sometimes referred to himself as Johnny Blaze, a reference to Ghost Rider, and Ghostface Killah was a big fan of Iron Man, so much so that he titled an album after the fictional character. MF Doom was another superhero fan, his name being a reference to Marvel's Doctor Doom. Then there's Czarface, comprised of Wu-Tang member Inspector Deck and hip-hop duo 7L and Esoteric, with their brief mention of Galactus in the song Savagely Attack. Rappers like these and many more were referencing the things that they enjoyed and grew up on in the music that they made. And that hasn't changed a whole lot with newer rappers of today. You still see these types of references with Logic mentioning Magneto and War Vet, Joey Badass and his X-Men reference in Sit and Pray, and Chief Keef mentioning several superheroes in, well, superheroes. Okay D, you're talking about comics and superheroes, I thought you were going to talk about anime. I know. I'm getting there. No worries, my guy. So what I'm saying is that a lot of artists that came from the earlier days of hip-hop tended to make mention of the things that they grew up on and were influenced by. So what were today's artists growing up on? Well, just like their old school ancestors, a lot of modern hip-hop artists had comic book heroes and Disney and a lot of the same stuff that old school MCs grew up with. However, anime was also starting to really hit the scene in the US around the 80s and 90s. Anime had already been in the US before this time, but it was during the 80s and 90s that it really began picking up steam in the States. So whoever was a kid back in those days was probably getting exposed to things like Gundam, Pokemon, Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball Z, and a heap of other shows from Japan. Shows like these were way different from what the United States was putting out, so lots of kids found the long-running story arcs, subject matter, and bold style of anime to be fascinating. Around the mid-80s, hip-hop was starting to find its place in Japan. People began breakdancing, DJing, and rapping, just like they had been in the States. Hip-hop's growing popularity in Japan helped inspire one manga artist named Takashi Okazaki to create the manga Afro Samurai in 1999. Afro Samurai definitely had hip-hop integrated into it, and it shows in the 2009 anime adaptation of the manga. It had the look, the music, even going as far as to have RZA from Wu-Tang Clan come in to do the intro music for this show. The show oozes hip-hop vibes from head to toe. Before Afro Samurai's anime adaptation in 2009, however, there was already an anime that mixed in a little bit of hip-hop. I'm talking about 2004's Samurai Champloo.
Samurai Champloo.
Everything from graffiti to beatboxing to fighting that is very reminiscent of breakdancing was implemented into Samurai Champloo. Various music artists came together to work on the show's soundtrack, such as Fat John, Suchi, Force of Nature, and Nujabes, with the show's opening being created by Nujabes and rapper Shing02. This anime's blending of samurai and hip-hop culture resulted in a show full of all the action and drama you'd expect from a samurai anime, with the style and flair of hip-hop. The show had good vibes and bumping tunes, and sometimes the music gave off a sort of nostalgic feel. This is due in part to the approach that Nujabes had to producing. When listening to Nujabes' music, it sort of has a very old and lo-fi sound. Lo-fi is short for low fidelity, which refers to music that is recorded at a lower quality than is the usual standard. Lots of old school hip hop had the same kind of old grainy sound to it due to the equipment being used at the time. Nujabes intentionally incorporated this into his own sound. This, combined with the mellow samples he used, resulted in tracks that evoked feelings of longing. This interesting style played a big part in shaping a new community that has formed on the internet. Lo-fi hip-hop has become very popular on the internet in recent years. Search it up on YouTube and you'll find various live streams and mixes with mellow beats galore. What's more is that almost every video and stream that you find features anime in its thumbnail. Many of the artists in this subgenre grew up with things like 90s anime, the works of Studio Ghibli, and anything that was shown on Toonami back in the day. Things like this are what inspired a new community of musicians to put up music that derives its look and sound from anime. And the nostalgia that these artists feel towards these anime series definitely shows. Lo-fi has basically become synonymous with anime at this point, as many tracks sample lines of dialogue from old school anime and often remix the soundtracks of these shows. It's more common to find a lo-fi hip-hop mix or stream featuring some anime gif or picture than not. And something about the mellow beats and the aesthetic of anime coming together in this way just sort of works. This community has grown pretty large, with many of the mixes that you find on YouTube gaining anything from a few thousand to millions of views. But the bond between the two cultures doesn't end with the lo-fi community, as many bigger artists have referenced anime as well. Kanye West is a great example, as his video for Stronger is based off of the movie Akira. And Denzel Curry made a reference to Bleach in his song Dark Tournament. Not surprisingly, a lot of rappers have also made references to Dragon Ball Z, so much so that it'd be a little redundant to list them all off. On the eastern end, the artwork featured on music by DJ Okawari is very anime-like. I think that one of the greater examples that I can think of, however, is rapper Anonymous, who has referenced works like Neon Genesis Evangelion with his song Evangelion X, and Cowboy Bebop with his song of the same name. More recently, however, Anonymous used the classic anime Yu Yu Hakusho as the base of inspiration for his 2017 EP titled Urameshi. Artists like these and more are further evidence that anime and hip-hop have, over time, developed a special relationship with one another. It's hard to ignore that these cultures have found a common ground when looking at shows like Afro Samurai, Samurai Champloo, or when seeing the lo-fi community and the various artists whose music is being partly inspired by anime. And personally, I think it's great. Seeing these two things that I personally am a fan of becoming so closely acquainted in this way is just cool to me. And I'm excited to see where else this relationship goes. Anyway, that's been my thoughts on the subject. If anyone else has any examples of hip-hop and anime meshing together, I'd love to see your input in the comments. Let's share what we know about this. I'm finished talking, and now I think I'm gonna go chill out to some lo-fi mixes. Peace. Hey, if you made it to this point in the video, I just want to say thank you for sticking around till the end. Also, I want to give a special thanks to BackAlleyKat for allowing me to use his music in this video. It really helped me out, so thanks a bunch, man. Peep the links to him in the description if you want to check him out, which I recommend you do as I think his tracks are really awesome. Besides that, if you enjoyed your time here, I'd appreciate you dropping a like or subscribing if you're new. With all that said, thanks once again. I've been Spirit Detective D, and I'll see you in the next one.